NBA players who have had insane games after the death of a loved one. Because professional athletes are often seen as competitive, tough, and single-minded in their pursuit of greatness, we often forget that they're people too. They may entertain us on a nightly basis, but all of them have their own lives and their own families when they're not competing. It can sometimes feel like we know NBA players in particular because of the great job the league does in marketing them and interviewing them, but there's often more to these guys than meets the eye. Inspiration can come in different forms, and adversity can often be the strongest kind. Oftentimes, setbacks from off the court can motivate NBA players to perform even better on it. Today, we're going to talk about some players who had incredible games after the death of a loved one. Be sure to stay until the end to hear about every one of them, and be sure to subscribe for more NBA content. Perhaps the most memorable example of this kind of performance came in Boston in 2017. On April 15, 2017, Celtics guard Isaiah Thomas lost his 22-year-old sister, China, to a car accident in Washington State. Thomas received the sad news the day before Game 1 of Boston's first-round playoff matchup with the Chicago Bulls.
Still trying to cope with the tragic loss of his 22-year-old sister, China.
The 2016-2017 NBA season was a historic one for Thomas and the best campaign of his career thus far. The 5'9" guard averaged a career-high 28.9 points to go along with 5.9 assists per game. Despite his size, he dominated game after game and earned the nickname King of the Fourth for his fantastic play late in games. That year, he made the Eastern Conference All-Star team, the All-NBA second team, and even finished 5th in MVP voting. Despite his obvious emotional turmoil, Thomas played the next day and put up 33 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds in Boston's 106-102 loss to the Bulls. After the Celtics defeated the Bulls in Game 6 of the series, Thomas flew across the country for his sister's funeral before returning just in time for Game 1 against the Wizards, in which he scored a mind-boggling 53 points on what would have been China's 23rd birthday. John Wall's story is a little different than Thomas's. During a post-game TV interview in December of 2014, Wall broke down and cried after learning that Demaya Telemakwe Nelson, a 6-year-old cancer patient he had befriended the year prior, had died. As it turns out, Wall had scored 26 points in the game to help Washington come back and defeat the Celtics 133-132 in double overtime after squandering a 23-point third-quarter lead. He had scored the Wizards' final 10 points to secure the victory. In the interview, Wall said, "This game was really meant for her. It would have been an even tougher day to lose it. I just went into a mode where I didn't want to lose this game." ESPN recently released The Last Dance, a 10-part documentary series about Michael Jordan's time with the Chicago Bulls, and it contained a heartfelt story about how the game's greatest player dealt with loss. Many people in the documentary talk about how close Michael was with his father, James Jordan, and how much valuable advice MJ received from him. However, the series took a dark turn when it described how Jordan's father was murdered and disposed of in a swamp after pulling over to the side of the road in North Carolina to sleep. He was scheduled to take a flight to Chicago the next day. His father's death was part of the reason Jordan left the NBA to play baseball later that year, but it also provided him with inspiration when he returned to the Bulls to chase another championship. In Game 6 of the 1996 NBA Finals, which happened to be Father's Day, MJ dropped 22 points to seal the series in favor of Chicago and win Finals MVP. Immediately after the game, he went to the locker room, laid down on the ground, and began sobbing, overwhelmed by the moment. That picture remains perhaps the most iconic image of what the loss of a loved one means to an athlete. Chris Paul, though he's now a seasoned NBA veteran, experienced a serious loss in his life in high school. In 2002, when Paul was still playing at West Forsyth High School, he learned that his grandfather, Nathaniel Jones, had been murdered at his home. Jones was just 61 years old, and Paul had just signed with Wake Forest the day before. Inspired by his grandfather, Paul decided to try to score 61 points for him the next day in a game against Parkland High School. Though he was at first unsure he could do it, Paul racked up point after point, scoring 24 in the second quarter alone. Late in the fourth quarter, he drove to the basket and scored his 61st point on a layup while also drawing a foul. Knowing that he had accomplished his goal, he airballed the free throw on purpose. He had done it. He had scored 1 point for every year of his grandfather's life. With the game already decided, Paul went to the bench and wept while embracing his brother. In April of 2017, Lakers guard D'Angelo Russell was informed on the day of a game that his grandmother had just died. He had decided to excuse himself from the game after hearing the news, but changed his mind and headed to the arena at the last minute. It turned out to be a fortunate decision, as Russell scored 16 points and added 4 rebounds and 4 assists en route to the Lakers' win over the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not only that, but D'Lo hit a three-pointer as the buzzer sounded to give his team a last-second victory. The moment could not have been sweeter as his teammates celebrated with him. In November of 2017, Celtics wing Jaylen Brown received a phone call from his mother of his childhood friend and found out that his friend had died. However, the man's mother encouraged Brown to play the next day in order to honor her son. And he rose to the occasion, scoring a team-high 22 points to help lead Boston to their 14th win in a row in a victory over the Golden State Warriors. Brown described his mixed emotions after the game, saying, "My best friend passed last night. It was tough to kind of accept it. Everybody was kind of in shock, but I knew coming in today that he would have wanted me to play." Losing family members, friends, and anyone else who's played a major role in your life can be psychologically devastating, and it's easy to see how that could hamper athletes who pride themselves on focusing on their craft. These NBA players are testaments to athletes' strength of will and the power of love for one's family and friends, even when they aren't there to cheer them on. Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss out on content, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.